Hi everyone, I hope you're well. So tonight's collab is going to be looking at Learning Unit 4 as well as Learning Unit 5, and just looking at, well, let's start with Learning Unit 4. And what Learning Unit 4 is looking at is the message, how to ensure credibility, looking at things such as your style and your tone, using words effectively, and so on. So there's just a couple of things that I wanted to focus on for Learning Unit 4, which is super important. The first thing I want to just speak to you about is looking at your credibility. So you guys, for your assessments, will be looking at your case study that are Pringles, and when you are writing your assessments, you need to think about writing from a perspective of being a credible source. So you're going to write things in an honest, objective manner. Think about the audience's needs. Make sure that what you write comes across as knowledgeable and that there is a good level of expertise and that you are coming across as a as a person who is in the know and who actually has done research into the product. You've got to make sure that you're writing from a sincere perspective. And what I need to see from you is that you are seeing yourself as the expert. You're seeing yourself as someone who knows what they're talking about to give your work a level of credibility. So even though you're just researching it and looking at the bigger picture, it's important to think about this credibility because that's something I'm going to be looking for. So the other thing that is important, and this is very important for your assessments, is understanding style and tone. So the reason why this is important is because when you are producing any content that is going out to an audience, we need to be aware of who we're sending out this content to. We need to think about the type of person. So I spoke about in the previous recording about our audience, and the whole idea is we need to think about the person or the type of people that we're trying to reach. So if you're trying to reach a younger crowd, there's no point in you writing in a very formal, convoluted manner. But if you're trying to reach an older, more business orientated crowd, then you're going to be writing with a more formal approach. So your style of writing will be determined by who you're trying to reach. So for example, with Pringles or with Simba or with any of the chip brands, when we're thinking of it, we think of a more casual environment, more fun, more relaxed. It's not about, trying to inform or educate. It's about entertainment. And when you guys are working through your assessments, you need to think very particularly about the style and tone, because if you write your different questions with the wrong style and tone, you can lose a significant amount of marks because that is something that is critical to this particular learning unit. All right, so that's something they're going to be addressing. So just to go back to the learning objectives, the other thing that I want you to think about is things such as your connotation and denotation. So these two concepts, which I'm going to highlight now, are important because with your connotation and your denotation, they are both important concepts that we are using within advertising, media, marketing, and your denotation is what we see at face value. So it's that every single form of media or advert or anything that is put out there has a denotation. It's what we see at face value. But your connotation is the deeper meaning. It's what we're trying to impart. It's the message we're trying to get across. So sometimes your denotation, your connotation might not necessarily be the same because they're trying to give a more subversive message, or maybe they're trying to be clever or tongue-in-cheek, or whatever it may be. So you need to be aware of the concepts of connotation and denotation, because when you are working with your Pringles ad, you need to think about things if you're going to present your ideas at face value, or if you're going to be clever and try to, give some hidden meaning that makes people think about what you're trying to say. Also, what I want you to focus on and think about when you are working through this learning unit is think about your effective writing. So if you have a look here at learning objectives 6, 7, and 8, there is a focus on writing of your sentences and your paragraphs, as well as for writing for mobile devices. And when you're working through that content, I want you to pay close attention to the information and the way in which they explain the concepts of writing your sentences, your paragraphs, as well as for mobile devices, because while you guys might be studying English or you're doing communication science, they all help you and get you through all the different modules in terms of your writing and that. But this for NCTE, where we're specifically looking at the style of writing to try and encourage purchasing and engagement and what have you, it's very important to make sure that you're following the guidelines that it gives you in terms of writing, so that when you are presenting what I showed you guys in the last lecture from Learning Unit 3, sorry, in our last collab, I'm just pulling up the slide for you now. The writing process, you need to ensure that you are effectively writing your sentences, your paragraphs. You're able to put into place this plan right and complete. So Learning Unit 4 does follow on very nicely from Learning Unit 3, and it is important to make sure that you don't just write for the sake of writing, that you're following the guidelines outlined in the textbook, because writing in this manner is different than writing in an academic way or a journalistic way or whatever it may be. So just be careful with that. All right. Now, with regards to Learning Unit 5, I'm just going to pull up the module outline just so that you have the lesson of learning objectives in front while we're discussing it. If you can just give me 1 second. So we're looking for, there's Unit 1, 2, 4, and Unit 5. Here we go. All right, so if you just zoom in on your side, I'm doing the same on mine. And the reason why I'm pulling up the module outline is just to highlight the importance of Learning Unit 5. So for Learning Unit 5, it takes the content from Learning Unit 3 in terms of the planning, the audience, the guidelines outlined in Learning Unit 4, we're looking at, the structuring of the writing. But then Learning Unit 5 is incredibly important because it does focus on the readability and the actual writing. So how you are going to edit your message, how to ensure that you have readability and clarity, that you have conciseness so that you are not writing so that you are over presenting information that ends up with people losing interest while reading, that you are thinking about ensuring that your document makes sense, that has got good flow, good structure, and makes the audience want to read on, or in your instance, makes me want to read on. So the other thing that it does look at is the proofreading of the message, and it is so important to reread your work. My guideline to you, and what I've always suggested to students in the past, is don't write and submit. Try and get your work done a few days before deadline. Don't look at it for a day or two and then reopen it and reread it with a fresh set of eyes. Because often when we are in the going through the flow and working through the content, is our brain automatically fills in the blanks for us. And while that is great and it's clever, at the same time it's detrimental when you're working for academics as well as for this kind of thing with business writing, because it means that there might be gaps that are present that you need to actually fill, but they're not being fulfilled because your brain is automatically filling in the blank. So either get someone else to read your work or read it yourself aloud, not in your head, because when we read in our head, that's when we fill in the blanks. And just try and pick up the mistakes. Read through things time and time again, but just give yourself time in between those readings, because it is that cheesy thing of, fresh set of eyes, but it's more that your brain, once it's taken a step back, and you then go and reread something, you actually then will pick up the mistakes that you might not necessarily do when you are rushing through and trying to get it all done at once. So please, guys, with Learning Unit 5, read through it carefully, look at it from a practical perspective of how you're going to implement this yourself in the assignment, as well as within the final PRE. Just remember that the case study of Pringles is going to lead from the part to the POE, so it is a continuation of a theme, which means that you need to keep the style and tone similar across the two documents, and it's really important to make sure that you are clear on writing for the purpose of reaching an audience. So Learning Unit 4 and 5 are really important for this module, and it's super important that you just spend the time working through those 2 units. And then if you have any questions or anything you're not clear on, please WhatsApp me and chat to me and let me know what you're getting stuck with so that I'm able to assist you. Just remember that this is not going to be tested in terms of a theoretical approach, but more in terms of a practical approach. So read to understand, read to get the gist of what is expected, but it's not going to be reading to repeat back to me. All right. And that's it for Learning Unit 4 and 5. Again, if you have any questions, please get hold of me, and hopefully I'll chat to you soon. Bye, guys.